What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. Today, I'm going to share with you a garden you only have to plant one time that'll feed you for the rest of your life. Let's go! The garden that I'm standing in right now is mimicked after a natural forest. What I mean by this is its focus and foundation are in perennial species. Things like fruit trees and nut trees are going to produce year after year, even more and more. You're only going to have to put them in once. For example, this hazelnut tree right here. I put this in about 5 or 6 years ago. As you can see, we're getting hazelnuts. Every year we seem to get more and more hazelnuts. The production is just increasing. These usually take about 2 to 5 years to start producing, and then they'll just produce more and more as time goes on. These hazelnut trees can last up to 70, 80 years. So after you get them in, after you get established, they're what's going to be taking care of you as you get older. Paul Gauci kind of talks about setting up a system that gets easier every year. So as you get older, you have to do less and less work, as opposed to something that's just focused on annuals, that every year you have to get out there, break your back, laboring and laboring. I still love planting annuals, but my foundation is in perennials, in fruits, in nuts, and things like that. So as you can see, we've got another hazelnut tree here. It's got some hazelnuts on it. This one isn't producing as heavy, but these are long-term investments. This isn't something we're trying to just get a lot of fruit on this first year. You'll notice here, we leave a lot of our species with the umbrella shape, like the cilantro here, to draw in a lot of different pollinators. I don't just cut them down after they're done producing. What I'll do is I'll let these flower like they are, bring in all these pollinators, all this life into the garden, and then allow them to go to seed, and they'll self-seed themselves. So I didn't plant any of this cilantro this year. I didn't plant these echinacea here. I didn't plant this borage. A lot of the things in here are self-seeding, and that's one of the ideas with this system as well. It's self-replicating. I'll tell you what, it feels good to be in a system like this, a garden, where you're surrounded by all living plants, a great diversity of things. Just 8 years ago, where I'm sitting now, this whole section here was all grass. Now it's the complete opposite. It's all food. Behind me here, I've got a persimmon tree. This thing will grow and its lifespan is about 60 years. So as we get older and it gets older, it's going to help support us continue producing more and more. To the left of me here, we've got some asparagus. This asparagus has a lifespan of about 50 years as well. So always just growing, expanding the area, expanding the bed, getting bigger and guiding us and helping us as we grow older as well. Right here, we've got a pear tree. This has got a lifespan of about 50 years as well. So the idea is to invest in things that are going to help get bigger, that are going to produce more, and just continue to excel as we excel and we grow as well. Right here, we've got some annuals too. I mean, I've even got some tomatoes mixed in here. So it's not all perennials, but again, the perennials, the long-lasting ones, are the foundation of the garden. And when it comes to permaculture, there's a quote that I think of that by Bill Mollison, one that I love so much. He said, when it comes to permaculture, no one necessarily knows what they're doing. But if what you're doing works out, then you won't really have to do anything. So I love that quote so much, and it's one of them that I think on, and the more time that goes on, the more I'm in the garden, the more I start to understand it. Another reason a garden like this, a food forest, is one that you only have to plant once, that'll support and feed you forever, is the idea I previously mentioned of self-replication. As you can see underneath this apple tree here, I've got dill coming up, there's lemon balm all coming up. Now, I didn't plant any of that. I planted it one time. Now it's just continuing to self-seed, continuing to come up and to continuing to support the garden and support us. And we've even got some curled leaf basil here, which looks beautiful. That came up on its own. So it's not just getting the perennials in, that's part of the system, but it's also getting things that will continue to seed, continue to spread. And when you have a thick wood chip mulch down, when you mimic a forest floor, that's the foundation, then you're really going to know that you can actually create that forest feel. So when I had that epiphany almost, that in order to create a true food forest, you have to have the forest floor. That's what's going to support the whole thing. Things really started to come together. As you can see, we've got some currants here, more perennials. Above it, another pear tree that's going to last, like I said, 50 years. Bunch of pears on it, looking fantastic. One of our great producing trees, the Moonglow there. Like I mentioned, we still do have a lot of annuals because we just love growing tomatoes, especially when you're in New Jersey. And on my side garden, I have plenty of blueberries. Blueberries are another crop that's going to be, 50-year lifespan, 30 to 50 years. Blackberries are going to last, about 15 years. So something that's going to continue to produce. But when you have a diversity of things, that's also going to help stabilize your whole entire harvest. Underneath this peach tree here, we've got more asparagus coming up, continuing to expand every year. So this peach tree is something that's only going to fruit for about 7 to 10 years, only going to last for about 12 years, but still, the whole idea of self-replication is even evident when it comes to the peaches. You can see we've got some peaches that self-seeded themselves right here. So it's the next generation coming on. If we walked away from this garden, this food forest, I'm confident that if I walked away 10 to 15 years, come back, it would still be producing. Some things would take over, say maybe some raspberries and things like that, but overall we'd still be getting a good harvest from a garden like this. And as you can see, it's a great place to hang out. Got that nice natural shade on a hot day. So this truly is a food forest. It feels great to spend my time in here. When I'm in the food forest, I truly feel like I'm in a whole different setting. I don't feel like I'm in a suburban neighborhood anymore. It's taken on its own feel. It's taken on its own sense of life. And what this really is a big biological machine. All different kind of forms of life coming together. As you can see right here, it's nice to be a part of a system like this, hanging out with all the bees. This oregano plant draws in a lot of pollinators. As you can see, the bees are constantly working out here. I'd love to have a beehive, but I'm in a relatively small section, so it's not something that I've put in yet. I'm thinking about doing. Let me know if you guys think it's a good idea. But I want to take you over to the new food forest, out of this 8-year-old food forest, and show you what you guys can have in a short amount of time. So it's not just this food forest we're working on. We're looking even more towards the future in the next food forest as well. Something that I've noticed as the years have progressed in the garden is that the food forest, it's always changing. It's not static, it's fluid. Trees are getting bigger, things are getting shaded out. So my approach to the garden, my approach to how to maintain the food forest has to change as well. I think that's why Bill Mollison talks about gardening by observation. So not just going out there with a preset idea or something, but looking at the trees, letting them kind of communicate in their own ways to guide you, to let you know what needs to be done. Being open to kind of listen. So just to come out in the garden sometimes, just look around every day, you know, even if you're not grabbing some fruit, even if you're not doing too much work, but just come out here, be out here, and let the almost garden speak to you. I think there's also this sense of idea of amazement. So when you come out to the garden and you say, wow, I can't believe it's grown so much. I think nature wants to, you know, wow you even more. So if you come out with that good attitude to appreciate what you have and to be amazed by it, I think it'll continue to amaze you. So I encourage you guys, if you don't have a food forest started or something, to get a tree in the ground, to get a bush in the ground, get some kind of perennial in the ground. Like they say, the best time to plant a tree is 7 years ago. The second best time is today. So get them in. If you guys are enjoying this video, hit the subscribe button. If you want to contribute to the channel, if you love this idea of food forestry, of planting things once and feeding you forever, check out some of the shirts, some of the merchandise, grab a mug or something and contribute to the channel so we can continue to do this stuff and continue to grow. Now let's move into the food forest that's only on its second year. And in this garden, a lot of the perennials are smaller, so we're making sure we're using a lot of that space for annuals, getting a lot of production in those areas. Tuck, thirsty boy? So one thing about having a garden and food forest too is you get to enjoy it with your dogs, with your puppies. And it's a hot day today, so we want to make sure we get Tuck some water. He's always out here. He's always having a good time, eating the fresh stuff. He's gonna want some green beans and stuff, I know it. He'll probably dig up his own carrot. So a lot of those carrots and things, sometimes I'll show him where they're at, but sometimes I'll just be hanging out in the garden and Tuck will come out and find his own carrots. So when you get to enjoy the garden and being out here, when you got a companion, when you have a guardian of the garden, it makes everything even sweeter. Make sure you get some good water. Another thing you'll notice is in a food forest, we're in a polyculture, not a monoculture. We have all different kinds of plants growing together, almost like a companion garden on steroids. So we've got some squash growing here, a couple of zucchinis that are ready. In between that, we're growing some beets because these are root crops. These occupy different spaces. Then we've even got some dragon tongue beans. These are probably my favorite tasting bean that there is. Not only does it taste great, it looks great, it's so juicy, good size to it. So good. We've got a different variety of squash growing right here. And I always highly encourage you guys to always try different varieties. You'll notice, look at the leaves, look at the health on this kind of plant. Look at this, just absolutely beautiful. It doesn't have any of the powdery mildew like some of this do over here. As you can see, Tuck's trying to grab a bean. Let me just grab him one real quick. I don't want him ripping the plant up too much. He loves the dragon tongues almost as much as I do. So I'll give him that side, maybe take this side for myself. These really are one of my favorite beans. You guys gotta try the dragon tongues if you haven't before. So good. Give him another piece. Tuck, here you go, boy. So we've got some beets down there that are about ready to harvest. Then as we move over here, we've got more pear trees. Pears do well around here, long-lasting tree. So as you can see, while this pear is still moving towards production, it's not shading a lot of things. We're growing zucchini. Right next to that, we've got tomatoes, a whole row of them. Don't forget, we're looking out for some of our monarch butterflies. We've got milkweed growing in here. You might not even be able to see it, but behind that we've got blueberries. Here's a crop that's going to be about 30 to 50 years that'll produce for us. So we're always looking towards the future, but we're making sure we're taking advantage of the time that we do have. Even down here, we've grown the same idea with companion planting. You'll notice we have garlic that's ready to harvest. between a lot of our tomatoes. So we're making sure that we're not only utilizing that space, but using things like garlic to help fight these pests and things that tomatoes might have. So I think some of these garlic are probably ready. Let me just grab one here. Pretty tough to get out. Oh, not good, but let's see. Have to dig down there a little bit. Looks like it's a pretty good sized bulb. I don't want to damage the bulb too much as I start to grab it. But it's holding on, it wants to stay in there. Almost got it here. Looks like a decent bulb. So it looks like it's got some nice cloves on it there. We'll use that, we'll cook it up today, maybe grab some eggs from the chickens, cook that up. Then even behind me here, we've got grapes growing. So I've got all grapes growing along all the fence lines, newly planted grapes. Grapes will produce for about 50 to 100 years, they even say. So again, long-term crops. But while we're waiting for the grapes to produce, we're making sure we've got peas planted. We're utilizing that space. And then even underneath the peas, like right here, we've got cucumbers all planted. So again, we're utilizing as much space as we can. That's the idea, to blend things that grow together, to get as much production as you can, but to always be looking towards the future, to think of things from a perennial mindset. Now I want to give you an overview of what the 2-year-old food forest looks like, well, even the whole backyard. So this is the 2-year-old food forest right here. Behind it we have the 8-year-old food forest. So this backyard was just like this. It was all grass not long ago. But what we did was continue to plant things, and everything added up, everything accumulated. So below my feet here we've got a nice variety of things. We've got strawberries, blueberries, cucumbers. So we're making sure we have all different kinds of things planted. We've got new peach trees looking excellent, planted those just 2 years ago. We've got tomato right here, a little smaller than some of my other tomatoes, but still doing okay. Some Los Llaneros kale, some beautiful Swiss chard right there. These strawberries are finished producing, but they had a great year. A lot of cucumbers along the fence line. More apple trees looking towards the future. And look at all these tomatoes. Some of these tomatoes are just doing beautifully. They're already about 4 feet tall. Some of them even maybe taller than that. Some different varieties that we've never done before. Look at the amount of fruit sets on this thing. It's just incredible how much fruit this one has on it. So many flowers, so many fruits. It looks like we're gonna have our best harvest ever when it comes to tomatoes. So every year our harvests are increasing, and we're learning more and more. And when it comes to wealth, I think Bill Mollison even talks about that. He says, you know, some people measure wealth in dollars, but wealth and understanding of nature is really something that's going to pay off in the long run, not only for you, but also for your health and everything like that. You can help others. More zucchini, got a number of them in there, number of them over here. So one of the typical themes we like to do is plant the zucchini underneath some of the young fruit trees. Well, again, utilizing that space, but not planting them too close that they're affecting the growth of the fruit trees. More strawberries planted in there as Tuck comes through and just is always by my side. We're having a lot of fun out here. So as you can see, Tomato Alley is really shaping up. We've got some decent sized tomatoes on some of them, which is nice. As you can see, there's some getting bigger right there. Looking fantastic. We're making sure we're pruning these up one stem, as you can see, removing the suckers. That's how we're getting that height as Tuck walks down here. Here's Tomato Alley. All the tomatoes on this side, all the tomatoes on that side. So it's gonna be beautiful to walk down and just grab them. Then we're growing things like holy basil, tulsi, which is a great medicinal, as well as a great taste, and the smell on this thing is just incredible. I like to pick off these flowers. I can go into why in another video. But again, everything is looking fantastic. That's what happens when you invest in a system like this. When you invest in your soil, when you let the worms do the work, everything can truly come together. I share these videos because mainly I want a lot of you to start growing your own food forest. I want you to get the benefits of it, not only from eating the stuff, but from just being a part of a natural system like this, to working with a system, not just fighting against nature constantly, but to actually also learn and be a part of it. Get your fingers dirty. There's nothing like coming out here, getting your hands dirty, and then, you know, a month or two later, getting to eat the fruit from the tree, get to eat the carrots that you planted, and to share it with all others. Share it with your dog, and to just enjoy yourself when you're out here. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll tell you what, it feels good to go from the 2-year-old food forest into the 8-year-old one to get an idea what the future is going to hold. But it's also been valuable to have this food forest, to learn from all the mistakes I've made, and to apply the things I've learned into that new food forest. Getting the right varieties, putting the wood chips in early. So my other thing that I love about making these videos is to hopefully give you guys some information to see what you can learn and how you could actually prevent a lot of the mistakes, a lot of the hardships, a lot of the struggles that can happen if you make the wrong things, make the errors in the beginning. If you enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button, share with your friends. Don't forget to check out the merchandise if you love the channel. Put some hearts in the comments for Tuck. He's always out here working hard, enjoying himself just like us. We'll see you in the next one. James Perugino and Tuck, we out.